Now, from sport to the sport of politics, from Qantas flight upgrades to alleged misuse of chartered flights, Australian politicians have been under the hammer this week. Joining me live is former Howard Government Minister and Bondi Partners Senior Advisor Peter McGauran. Peter, good morning.
Good morning.
The Qantas upgrades drama continues. How damaging is this for the government?
Oh, extremely damaging. And the timing's made it even worse because it follows on from the Prime Minister's purchase of a $4.3 million coastal home. And he hasn't fully explained the issues yet. He seems befuddled, almost evasive. It's petering out, if you like, Tim, but it's got a way to run yet.
But it does have a little bit of glass houses. It's a dangerous space to point the finger at from an opposition's perspective. We've got Peter Dutton with the charter flights. There's dramas around Bridget McKenzie. Do they need to be careful?
Of course, people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, as you suggest, Tim. But in this case, distinguishing from any other problems other politicians might have, the Prime Minister was receiving large numbers of upgrades, which isn't alleged against Dutton, McKenzie or anybody else. Very significant number of upgrades. Secondly, he sought them out. How he obtained them is still up for debate. But worse still, and this is the hanging offence, he was the regulator for the aviation industry whilst getting these upgrades. What regulator in any sphere of commerce, sport, can possibly take a benefit from the person being regulated?
I've heard a variation on the glass houses. Those in glass houses shouldn't carry bowling balls, but we won't go there. Now, the quarterly inflation number released during the week, how encouraging were the numbers for mortgage holders?
Encouraging, Tim, if you can hold on. But it does not signal a short-term interest rate cut by the Reserve Bank of Australia. Possibly.
So their next meeting's Tuesday, yeah.
Next Tuesday, no hope. They've already ruled out any increases before Christmas because the underlying inflation rate is still bad. It's 3.4%. So the headline rate, if you like, is 2.8, which is very encouraging and within the band where interest rates could be made. But once you take out the volatile, unpredictable inputs to reach the headline inflation rate, it's still too high. I would say you're looking at May next year.
And obviously the government want that to happen earlier than that.
Well, they'll either be at an election or towards the end of an election and possibly too late to help.
Now, the final stretch of the US campaign, where are things at, do you think, right at the moment?
Donald Trump wins next Tuesday, not by very much, but he has all the momentum. Interestingly, what might largely tip him over the line is the trend of black men and Hispanic men between 20 and 25% are now voting for him. This is double what both segments have previously voted for Trump. So I would say Trump gets there, but it's a close race.
Oh, it's tight, I tell you what. It's a gutsy call from you. But let's have a look at some of the recent action. This was him with Tucker Carlson talking about Liz Cheney.
She's a radical war hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. You know, when the guns are trained on her face. You know, they're all war hawks when they're sitting in Washington in a nice building saying, oh, gee, let's send 10,000 troops right into the mouth of the enemy.
His people are saying he's been misinterpreted.
Oh, that's the first time I've heard it, Tim. I'm interpreting that as if she's in the front line of action in Ukraine or in the Middle East, how would she feel about it? I'm not taking that as suggesting she faces a firing squad, but it is Trump at his most colourful and remember, he suffers the worse than that at times. He's just been through a week of being called a Nazi and been mocked for that. So I'm afraid the mud is slung from both sides.
OK, now what are the implications of a Harris win for Australia or a Trump win?
Look, a Trump win or Harris, the core Australian interests remain unchanged. AUKUS, pushback against China. What will impact us is what Trump does to the wider world economy, imposing a 10% across-the-board tariff. Can he bring resolution to the Middle East? I think the Ukrainian war is 50 times more difficult for him because it's still at its full burst. So It's what Trump and Harris do elsewhere in the world, economy and geopolitical stability.
It's a really tightly held constitution. I know it's another discussion. A lot of people think, oh, this is going to happen, this has happened. But the US Constitution is a whole different thing. But we'll talk about that on another day because we've run out of time.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Peter.